Can everybody hear me? I hope so. Welcome to my Route 42 Squared birthday stream. Squared because I just turned 42. And I thought that was a great joke. Probably isn't, but who cares? Yeah. So I didn't really plan a lot for this evening. I have something to solder here. I have the 486 running, which was just playing a little bit of ad-lib music, because last time I played some tracker music from Purple Motion. I got a copyright strike, which is a bit annoying, especially considering that you can download the music from like everywhere for free, but that's YouTube for you. Anyway, thank you for being here and thank you for watching and listening. And right on time for the birthday stream, we passed the 2000 subscribers, which is a great milestone. And I'm not gonna pronounce this nickname correctly, Mishaps in Gaming. Happy birthday, thank you, yeah, thank you very much. So my birthday was a couple of days ago, but I think Friday is a better day to celebrate. People will have some more time, I guess. Okay, yeah, the channel has grown more than I expected. Still a small channel, but it's actually quite a lot of fun. There are a lot of regular viewers and a lot of nice comments and discussions, especially on the Let's Code videos, which is amazing and great. Those are the ones that actually are very much fun to do. I think all of the videos I do are fun because I'm doing it for fun, but the Let's Code are especially nice, but they also take the most time and preparation because I actually need to research and try to cut it down into sizable pieces so everybody can follow more or less. Yeah, having a look at Social Blade is actually also very nice. Social Blade is like a public server where you can check out how social media like YouTube are growing. So I of course have the YouTube Studio with the analytics, but this is the stuff that you can watch yourself, and it's quite interesting to see the stats. How many YouTubers are there actually in a certain category? What is your grade? I'm graded C+. I think only the huge ones with tens of millions of viewers, they have like A or A+ ratings. And let's face it, this is a hobby, and this is also reflected here in the monthly earnings. For people who don't know, YouTube doesn't give you money right away. You have to have at least 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of views, and then you can apply to get some of the advertisement revenue. And just as an idea how much people with something like 2,000 subscribers make, this is the range that Social Blade gives you. And I can tell you, divide the upper bound by 2 and I make less than that. So it's definitely a hobby, and that's what you get from advertisement alone, if you do nothing else. So to be able to live off of something like this, you would need like at least 50 times, rather 100 times more than this amount of subscribers and views, because of course the ad revenue of course only counts if some ads are being played and watched. If you click away the ads, of course nothing gets to the content producer. But still, I think this is still very amazing for such a niche channel that I'm doing here. And I like that I have a bit of a following and that people give comments, and they say, the other day someone said, hey, this video got me into assembly programming, which is great. I love it. So that's pretty nice. So you can suggest stuff that we want to do today. I have something here in the background. If I move my mic a little bit aside, you can see here a little Commodore PET. That's a machine from 1979, this particular one. The original one was from 1977. I got this for Christmas. It works, more or less. It needs some refurbishment. The keyboard is wonky. And a lot of stuff doesn't run on it. For example, the 8-bit guy has made a new game called Petsky Robots, which is targeted for the pad, but also for the C64 and the VIC-20. But it's targeted at the high-end pad machines, which have 32 kilobytes of RAM. Mine is a 3016, which has 16 kilobytes of RAM, so the game won't run. So I thought, what can we do about it? And I found this page here by a German user, and he has a universal RAM and ROM expansion, which means we can upgrade my 16 kilobyte pad to 32 kilobytes. Guillermo XT, hey buddy, yeah, hello, Guillermo XT from the DOS Reloaded forums. So welcome to the stream. Hope some more of DOS Reloaded and Vogons are joining. For people who don't know, there's quite a few nice bulletin boards on the internet regarding retro computing and tinkering and stuff like that. A very nice and helpful community indeed. So one of the options that we could do is, I have a fresh, where's my camera here, fresh new bag from Mouser with lots of components and some nice PCBs from Eisler, which are this memory expansion that you see here. And it's got just a decent amount of simple components that we can solder and chat while doing that. We are probably not gonna test it out because I haven't even figured out how to open the pad. So that will be probably in another video, probably not in a live stream because I need to figure out what's inside of it and if I break it. But we can put that thing together and talk about stuff. Welcome Jens Hafner, and thank you very much for the congratulations. And yeah, we can do that. If you rather want to do a bit of coding or some other stuff, looking at the old 486, just tell me. But otherwise I will probably switch over to the bench over here. Let me just do that. This should be it, and there's my notification. And yeah, what have we got here? So the board is actually pretty small because it has to replace, sorry for the noise, it has to replace the CPU on the pad, so it can't be extremely large. I'm just wondering which one. I think this one is the CPU spot, because there will be some headers being put down here and you plug in the whole thing into the motherboard. Welcome Ardo768. Yeah, so I have 3 of these. Tonight we can maybe make one. And yeah, we also have to sort through a lot of components, a lot of stuff. And there are even some things in here, oops, sorry, bumped the camera, that don't belong to this project. For example, I needed a Raspberry Pi. World of Dana, hey, welcome to the stream. There is this thing here. It's a Raspberry Pi Zero Barebones kit. I have an empty Raspberry Pi shell here, and I'm gonna show you something that I haven't shown on video. I wanted to make a video about that, but you can already have a sneak peek. So I have 2 C64s back there, one of which, oh, I should have put the tripod a little bit different. One of which is currently running, and I have disk drives, but the disk drives of course are sometimes unreliable, or I don't want to spend the time formatting a disk or something, and it takes a long time. So I have this one here. It's a Pi 15410. It's a floppy disk emulator, together with a fast load cartridge for faster loading, with a 3D printed case. And inside, you can see here, sits the Raspberry Pi actually, because the usual floppy emulators are pretty dumb. A lot of stuff doesn't run on them, but the Pi has enough processing power to run a custom firmware that perfectly emulates an original floppy drive, so that all the weird demos and games will run. Yeah, and Necroware has joined. Good evening and thank you. You should also check out Necroware's YouTube channel, which is very cool. And glad that he joined. So this is a pretty neat device, but you had to supply your own Raspberry Pi Zero, which means I had to take the one that was in here and put it in there. So that's why I ordered another of these. Let's put that aside, but I actually want to see what's in there, because it's quite the heavy package. And the most heavy thing is the cable. Okay, that's funny. And this is actually the Pi. These are probably some, yeah, these are some pin headers, which I will keep in there. But this is a whole computer in a bag. Let's have a look. And it's actually a pretty cheap computer. I think it's 10 euros or so with Wi-Fi. Here it is. Look at it. Isn't it tiny and nice? Oh, this is a full-blown computer, and not a particularly powerful one. I think 1 gigahertz, 1 core, half a gig of RAM. But still, it can emulate a floppy perfectly. So let's put this aside. We don't need that tonight. And today's drink is this one here. Never heard of it before, but saw it in the store the other day, so I took it. All right. What we need to do now is check our bill of materials from the web page and probably have a look at this one. Well, the most difficult part will be the sockets, because we will need to cut one of these. There will go a socket here and an IC underneath it, but as you can see, the sockets always have this bridge, so we will need some cutters to cut this out. But first I have to find them. Oh, there's so much nice stuff in here. I love it when Mouser uses these packages, because there's a couple of chips in here. I need already some cutters. And as I said before, for everyone who's joining, if you don't want to solder, we can also have a look at, or we can stop the soldering and the assembly stuff and do some other things, whatever you like. I'm up for almost anything. Ah, look at this. How tiny. I think this is pretty wasteful for 3 octal bus transceivers, but why not? I can reuse the package to store some other components. So these are the bus transceivers. What do we start with? I would say we start with some sockets. So this is already a good starting point. You can turn on the iron until it beeps. This here is, what's this? Oh, it's also some sockets. They are very well packaged. Let's have a look. Yeah, these are precision sockets. So I spent quite the money for the sockets today. Just the best. More sockets. I think half of the order is actually sockets, which is okay. And this should be, oh, this is the, oh, this is the SRAM. Okay, I think the SRAM is down here. I will have to look that up. I will leave that in because it's sensitive. And here are the 6502 sockets, I think. The 6502 is the CPU that was used in the pad, and also the CPU used, I think, in the VIC-20 and the 1541. I think the Commodore C64 uses the 6510, I think. And Dexor has joined and says happy birthday. Thank you, Dexor. Welcome to the stream. And cheers. So, I think these are the sockets for the 6502, yes. We could start with those, I guess. Let's put this aside. We will need that later. We need some solder with flux core. We need to get one of these out. And we probably need to cut it right away. So, where's the notch? The notch is over here, I think. Does it say? Did I order the right one? Yes, looks to be okay-ish. Question is, so the idea here is there are two rows where pins go, and let me show it a bit closer. So there are two rows, and I can put it up here or down there. And the idea will be that I probably need to solder the pin headers first, otherwise I'm occluding this line here. So let's see if I ordered any pin headers. Otherwise I have to probably cannibalize the Raspberry Pi ones, which is fine. We probably need to do that. So let's have a look if there's something fitting in here. Come on. Let's take the cutters. So how is everyone doing in the pandemic? Everyone still at home, or I mean, some of you are from Germany, I know that, so you're probably at home or most of the time. Okay, we can't use that. This is a double row pin header. So I have to search through my stuff, I guess. Where did I put my pin headers? But it would be too boring if we were well prepared. Dexor's from France and he's working from home right now. So I think my big yellow box here is probably some headers. There's definitely something from the last stream. And even more failed attempts. And a lot of sockets. But sadly no headers, I think. A lot of components. I can tell you the soldering iron is already bored, it's beeping. I will look into one more thing, and otherwise we solder something else. So let's have a look into this box. It says Mauser, so yeah, here we are. Here we have tons of pin headers. Okay, let's have a look. We have simple pin headers or precision machine pin headers. Which one do we take? I would go with precision because those are easier to insert. Necroware says, where you show the XT IDE adapters, did you manage to get that one running? No, I didn't try, because I already have one running one of those of that batch, so I was too lazy to debug it. But it's still in the pile of the things that I probably will do once in my lifetime. Not sure when. So short answer is no, not got it running yet. So let's have a look. I want to take the precision drilled ones. That would be this many. Okay, these will go on the bottom, I would say. Yeah, that should work, I guess. And another row somewhere here, if possible. Why doesn't it fit? What are you building today? Oh, Dexor joined later. Yeah, let's have another look at the desktop. I was showing earlier. Where do I need to go? I need to go like this. And back here you can see a Commodore PET 3016, which is from 1979, and it has 16 kilobytes of RAM, 16 magnificent kilobytes, and basic version 2. And this is a thing that we're building today is a general ROM RAM expansion which adds 32 kilobytes to the PET and allows you to switch between different ROM versions, basic version 4 especially. So that we can play all the new games for the PET, for example the Petsky Robots by the 8-Bit Guy, which is on its way to me. I already have the digital download, but the boxed copy is somewhere, probably in customs or something. So I want to play this on the PET, and for that I need more RAM, because 16 kilobytes obviously is too little. Okay, look at this. And this is exactly the right number of things. Pins, whatever. And then we can put this on top. But I'm still not sure if it matters which row I use. Well, and a PET accelerator, yeah, sort of, exactly. Yeah, something like this we will need to build. I hope I can fit the IC that belongs down there, which is IC5. IC5 is the bus transceiver. Yeah, let's see if we can manage that. First, let's solder in those machined headers. Okay. Is it February 5 in UK? Let me look at my watch. So in Germany it's February 5, so I would say it's also February 5 in UK. I would guess. So I guess that I Love Chocolate is from Australia or somewhere very much in the east. Anyway, welcome to the stream, I Love Chocolate. I might need to open the window. It should be pretty quiet outside. Yeah, this is looking good. So, yeah, I now fixed the outermost 2 pins to the left and to the right, and now it won't fall out of the PCB anymore. And so this is the down part, and this will go into the CPU socket on the PET motherboard. So I Love Chocolate says, yeah, yesterday was my birthday, so congratulations. And yeah, 4th of February is a great birthday. Not quite as good as the 2nd of February, which is Groundhog Day, but still. So now comes the boring part, soldering 40 pins. But at least it smells nice. Dexter says, I still haven't built my Snarkbarker yet. I was going to build it during the lockdown, but I got busy. Yeah. But I would suggest you definitely do that, because the Snarkbarker is a lot of fun. Which... The music at the beginning of the stream was, of course, played by the Snarkbarker, and for everyone who doesn't know what the Snarkbarker is, there is this great person called Eric Schlepf, also known as TubeTime, on Twitter and other places. He is a genius regarding reverse engineering, and this one thing here is a sound card for mid to end 80s PC, maybe early 90s, and it's a perfect replica of the Sound Blaster 1.5, I think, or 1.0. And it's really down to the component level and layout, it's really perfect. He of course changed the naming. His first reverse engineered sound card, the Adlib, he put the Adlib on there, but that's... I mean, Creative Labs are still around, so they could sue him or something. So he renamed it the Snarkbarker. And it's a brilliant card. It's got tons of components, so it took quite a while to assemble. But seeing that the original Sound Blasters go for 100 euros, 200 euros, depending on how good condition, it's actually at least as cheap, if not cheaper, to build your own Snarkbarker. And it's more fun, in my opinion. And assembling all this stuff and doing all the solder joints on the back, programming the microcontroller, and then seeing that it actually works and puts out music and speech and everything, it's actually quite nice. So yeah, that's pretty neat. And I even got the SAA 1099 chips from the Creative Music System, which don't sound that good, but it's like the upgrade for the Snarkbarker or Sound Blaster, which was a rare sound standard from the late 80s, which was also on the first Sound Blasters. Yeah, so if you don't know that, I have of course a video about that as well. And yeah, it's a fun project. And I'm not sure, Dexo, where you got yours. Was it on Vogons, the PCB? Was it in the run that I ordered or somewhere else? But usually on the forums, sometimes someone says, okay, I want to order a couple of these kits. Who wants to take part? So keep an eye open if you want to build something like this. Alright, back to the pet upgrade. We still got lots of pins to solder. I also have one dead 1541 drive actually lying around here, one of the huge ones, the big ones, and I think something is wrong there as well. I already excluded that it's the 6502 processor inside, and also the ROM seems to be okay, but I need an oscilloscope for that, so I'm probably gonna buy an oscilloscope, because I think one of the logic chips is flaking out and I don't want to desolder everything. Oh, Dexel ordered his Snarkbarker from a store. Okay, I didn't know there are stores that sell the kit already, or the PCB, but yeah. I think I was probably one of the first to build it, and we ordered like 10 PCBs from JLC PCB in the Vogons community, and I shipped out all the PCBs, but everybody else had to buy their components, because buying components for 10 kits is a massive undertaking and also pretty expensive. And shipping that through all the world, the PCB you can send as a regular letter basically, because it's flat. But sending all the components is actually like sending a little parcel. Gets pretty expensive, and even though Mauser is fast and cheap when you buy in bulk, it's a lot of work to sort all the components into 10 piles and ship them out. So I said, no, you have to buy your own components. Okay. Yeah, there are some joints. You probably won't be able to see it, but there's a little ball-like joint that's not good, so we heat it up again. Reflow. Here's another one. Other than that, I'm pretty happy. I'm actually pretty happy with the soldering iron, which is a cheap one from China, but a pretty good one. And now I've bridged 2 pins, which is not good. No, that's better. Dexter says, speaking of the CMS chips, I had an idea which I talked about somewhere on Vogons. I'd love to make a music synth program that would be using every chip on the card. Yeah, sure. You're welcome. Do that, please. There is already that one guy who makes the tracker for the Tandy sound card that Matze79 made. And maybe you can ask him for the source code or something for a starting point, or you start from scratch. Having the OPL2 and the CMS voices would be nice. There is of course the Modmaster XT that I'm using, which supports already quite a lot of stuff, but only like the OPL2 or the DSP, and it's just a player, not a tracker. So yeah, having some kind of super retro tracker which supports whatever chips you have in your system, that would be cool. Even throwing in Tandy support, for example, because the Tandy chip can also sound pretty nice, even though it has only like 3 voices. And to have something for the innovation would be also nice. So that was one of our older last year's streams where we built the Renovation sound card, which is a very even more obscure sound standard based on the Commodore SID chip. Here's it's a replica ARM SID, not an original Commodore SID, which was right around the time when the AdLib came out. The AdLib, of course, was kind of superior due to more channels and more widespread use. But this is still a very nice sound card because the SID can produce sounds that the AdLib can't. And having support for this in a tracker would also be nice, because there's very little software support. Origin supported this pretty well as Microprose, but there's like a dozen games that support this, and to have some tool for the homebrew community would be very, very nice. Thought about it myself, but that will take literally months to do, because yeah, I don't know, that's quite a lot of coding, I guess. But having support for that would also be nice, because the SID is very versatile. And Necroware says, by the way, I'm working on the Frankie 1 sound card currently. If everything works the way I planned, I hope to see it here in a soldering session as well. Yeah, sure. I would love to do the Frankie 1. I remember that you mentioned it. I mean, there's also the Monster FM on Vogons, but that's probably a project that will take another 10 years, which includes more or less every FM synth that was out there, or not even FM, but any kind of synth that was in a PC at some time, or not even a PC. I think they also include the AY3 chip and stuff like that, which is an interesting project, but as I said, it will probably take a decade to finish. And I hope your Frankie 1 will be out this year or something, so we can actually test it. And Damoose has, I think is the name, has joined the stream and says happy birthday. Thank you very much, and cheers. And for those joining, we are building a ROM and RAM expansion for the Commodore PAT, which is sitting behind me and you can't see it right now. And we already soldered a couple of pin headers. Frankie 1 should be a Tandy CMS sound card, which is nice, because most people already have some kind of Sound Blast or AdLib capability. But to hear some sounds from the very old games, to hear some sound in Maniac Mansion or Zack McCracken, will require at least a Tandy chip, if you don't want to hear the PC speaker music. Yeah, let us try to cut the socket now. And the reason for cutting was that there's another chip in here and it will be blocked by the socket. So-called socket block. So let's cut it out. And I broke it. I probably should have used a Dremel, but that's too late now. Jens Hafner says, let's sing together. Oh, I'm fearing for the worst. Okay, I'm not gonna sing this. You sing it at home. I will just imagine that you're singing. Okay. I slightly broke it, but it will be good enough. So, thank you for this very nice happy birthday. And Jens being the cheerleader. Okay, so for you people playing at home, definitely use a Dremel next time. I ordered 4 of the sockets because I already anticipated that I break it. Never mind. I'm just gonna put it in here. I'm gonna solder it now. Oh boy. So, did anyone here ever use a pad, a Commodore pad? I mean, I'm basically too young to have properly used it. It was obsolete when I was born, basically, or a little bit later anyway. And I haven't seen. I think I saw my first pad 2 years ago. Oh no, a bit more than 1 year ago. A bit more than 1 year ago at the Eisler Christmas party, because Eisler, the PCB manufacturer, is actually here in Aachen, or near Aachen. And they had a Christmas party, and they had some retro machines there, and one of them was a pad, and that was the very first time I saw a pad in person. Because I think they were pretty expensive back in the day. So the C64, like all my classmates had one. I didn't, but I played on those when I was a kid. But neither the VIC-20 nor the pad was. Yeah, maybe the 8-bit guy. Yeah, that's why what I said. I put this in here especially to play his new game on the pad, because it requires 32K, which is interesting because the VIC-20 I think has maybe the VIC-20 version also needs a RAM expansion, because the VIC-20 has, I think, even less RAM than my 16 kilobyte pad. So there's really not much you can do on those machines with that little memory. Although the Atari that I have back there, the 2600, that has even less RAM, so you have to restrain yourself from using too much memory. So, a question to the chat. What was your first computer or your first games console if you didn't have a computer? Mine was a 286 12 megahertz with VGA graphics and 30 megabytes of hard disk space. And I got in deep trouble when I installed Monkey Island 2, which took up 1/3 of the disk. And I got my first console only as a student when I bought a Mega Drive, which is also back there, for very cheap on a flea market. Damu says, mine was an MSX, Goldstar FC200. Okay, MSX was pretty rare, I think, in Germany. I think that's more a Japan thing. Maybe also US. But definitely relatively rare in Germany. So, yeah. Oh, I'm burning myself. So, all the other people? Damaus. Okay. It's not Damouz, it's not French, it's Damaus. Okay. Nevertheless, the man with the, or woman, I don't know, with the rarest machine on the channel right now. Guillermo says, my tendon, by the way, the XTID CF4 sent to a user if I made something wrong. Ah, okay, your tendon was your first PC, okay. And the XTID that you were building, you sent off. Yeah, I read that in the DOS Reloaded chat. Someone is chatting to me, but I can't look at it. Never mind. That's I'm still looking for a solution to film my bench. I'm using my iPhone and just using the screen capture method from OBS, but it will capture everything, also the notifications, and I'm already going on Do Not Disturb, but I think I need some USB camera instead. Probably. I mean, the iPhone has a very great quality, but it's too inconvenient to use it for the streaming. And since with streaming it's a screen capture, it's actually not that great quality. I mean, it's great for filming. When I do my usual videos, it's a great quality. But for the live streams, it's actually not that optimal. Okay, so this looks okay-ish. Not my best work, not my worst. So, nobody else got a computer? I think you're lying, or you're lazy to type. Oh, I totally missed that Yuvraj Singh asked what skills are required for building a sound card. Well, designing one is a whole nother level, but assembling one, you have to be able to solder, and you can work on smaller things. I started with a blinking circuit. I started off with these 3 years ago. Before 3 years I couldn't solder anything. Never did it in my life. And I think this is one of the first experiments. You can get these for like 5 kits for €2 shipped from China or something. And it has a couple of components, and when you apply which way around? Yeah, if you apply power, then it will blink. Very simple circuit. It's a bistable or astable flip-flop, and yeah, it's just for practicing putting solder on components, and if you break it, doesn't matter, a couple of cents are gone. And then I worked my way up from smaller projects to stuff like the Snarkbarger. Guillermo says, maybe I've made a mistake on the CF holder contacts. I sent you a message when I have news for you. Okay, yeah, the compact flash is terrible. It's really, really terrible. I hate it. That thing. I mean, I did a couple of SMD parts by now, but I don't like that one. It's so easy to make bridges between the pins, and then you can almost throw it away. So that's definitely something that should be machine assembled, but oof. Or you need much better soldering skills. I don't know. I have gotten better, but it's still terrible. I'm terrible at that particular part. That's one reason why I want a hot air station, because then you can do like reflow soldering. But actually I wouldn't know where to put it, and I would need it very rarely. So I haven't bought one because it takes quite a bit of space. And I mean, the soldering iron I use regularly because there's so much through-hole components. Necro says, most complicated stuff I soldered so far was a 3DFX Voodoo. Okay, like the graphics chips or the whole board? Guillermo says, yes, that's what I think I have to practice on SMD soldering, yes. I will have an upcoming video. I have a new SMD soldering kit from China. I already did one video which is doing actually pretty good. It's the most favorite video at the moment, where I solder one blinking SMD kit. And it was quite useful to do that, because that is also just a few bucks for 3, 4, 5 boards. And doesn't matter if you destroy one, you take the next one and try again until you're good at soldering. And it's not like you try to put together like the Gravis ultrasound kit, which is 50 euros or something, and if you break something, then 50 euros are gone. So yeah, definitely, if you want to learn SMD soldering, get one of those cheap Chinese kits, try it out, perfect your technique, and yeah, you will get better by practicing, basically. Like with everything in life. Always clean your soldering iron. Use enough temperature. I'm always using 350 degrees Celsius. Use high quality solder with flux. Lots of flux. With SMD soldering, it's even more important. So, almost done with the socket. So, Nekoware says, yes, I made a video on my channel where I repaired a 3DFX. It was actually quite tedious work. I believe so. So did you hand solder that, and how did you... I mean, I didn't watch the video, obviously. But did you have to remove one of the chips, or... Because I think that you can basically mostly only do if you have a hot air station, I guess. Heat up the chips and then remove them. Found out a capacitor from my V1 was broken from PCB. Now sometimes it flickers in 3DFX games. Okay. Oh, that's Guillermo. Okay. But a capacitor is probably easier to repair, I would say. I would hope. Okay, we got that running. We need the bus transceiver, I think. IC5 was the bus transceiver, which was the nice package, I think. Have a look, and it's the 245, yes. So let's take it out. One of these, and see if we can fit it. And so this is a bus transceiver, and the chip, of course, for machine pick and place purposes has the legs slightly outward bent, but we will have to bend its legs back into a right angle, otherwise we won't be able to fit it into its place. And I think I'm not going to use a socket here because I think there's no space. And I need to bend the legs even more. Guillermo says, hope to. Yeah, he hopes that it's easy to repair. I have a Voodoo one here. I have a bunch of PCI cards and a PCI board, but I haven't had time to assemble a machine out of it. And I think one of the electrolytics broke half off during shipping. Probably need to recap it. Jens Hafner says, I like your VGA programming videos. I am glad that you say that. The Let's Code videos are a favorite of mine, as I said in the beginning of the stream. But sadly they're also the ones that take up most of the time, because this year I can do like ad hoc. I buy the stuff, I solder on and just cut out the boring parts, the most boring parts at least, and that's it. But the Let's Code, I need really a couple of days preparation for every episode, and that's quite a bit of work for a hobby. But yeah, they are also my favorite. let's see. This should be pretty nice because now it's actually flush, so the 6502 should fit perfectly above that. I hope that Texas Instruments continues making these chips because they are the centerpiece of every homebrew project. I think almost every ISA homebrew card has one 7245 chip on it. We might have to clean the PCB later. Necroware says, absolutely, making YouTube videos costs a lot of time. And Mouse says, I'm a complete novice, but I recently discovered KiCad and I'm enjoying learning it. Any tips? I can't design any PCB. I have used KiCad to export, of course, together and to upload the designs, but I have no clue how to use it actually. Jens Hafner says, do you own any vintage computers? Yes, I do. Right behind me is the Commodore PET, of course. Down here is the 486 DX33, which is actually kind of a Frankenstein because it's in a ATX gaming with window and fans case, which is actually pretty nice. But it's more or less the innards are basically from 1990 to 1993-ish. And back there, you can't see that right now, over in that corner is a Amiga 500, a C64 and an Atari 2600 and a Sega Mega Drive. Those are my vintage machines basically, I think, yeah. There's a untested 2600 Junior over there, which I still need to mod with a composite mod. But it's basically the same as the other 2600 except a bit newer. So I think those are all the machines. Looking around, yeah, I would say so. Necroware says, actually using KiCad on Enco is very simple. You just need some practice. Yeah, that's the thing. Now I have the same feeling making PCB as if I'd play some strategy game. Okay. Yeah, I would love to be able to do that. Maybe I should just start doing it, but I have so many other fun projects right now. I don't think I will be able to start up with just another one. But I love assembling projects from other people and showing them off and testing them. It's also quite the fun. And that actually really doesn't require that much knowledge, just a bit of practice. Okay, we've got another row of pins to solder. Come on. Okay, nothing new in the chat. Necroware says, the more you do it, the more you get hooked. Yeah, I guess so, because it's I think it's amazing. I already like programming, and seeing something work out after you coded it is pretty neat, but then thinking about designing your own hardware, putting it together, putting it maybe in a computer, and then seeing everything works out and it does something is, I think, even better, because it's something that you can actually touch, and yeah, it's something physical. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, so I guess it's time for the next socket. A lot of sockets today. Let's open it at this end. I think that's easier. Hmm. They actually really didn't put any pin numbering on the CPU, did they? Okay, they made a square pad over here, so this is definitely pin 1. Okay, that's good. I think I put it in the right way because I see that the notches for the ROM and RAM are on the right side, and I put the notch for the CPU on the left side, which is unusual, but on the design I saw that this one here is a square pad, and the square pad indicates pin 1. So I was lucky. Okay, that's the one for down here, which is fine. So it's also an interesting design choice. This is the place for the SRAM, and you can get the SRAM in different packages. There's one with a double width, which I actually ordered. It's over here. There's one with a half width, and there's an SMD component, because that's easier to get and probably cheaper. So they made 3 different versions, and you can populate either one. I will just use the big one because I ordered the big one. That's okay. The mouse says, I enjoy designing components for the MSX and PC, but I have very little confidence that they would actually work. So you already designed them. Why then just build them, I would say, and test it. I mean, you probably don't want to break it. Jens asks, what do you do for a living? Are you a software developer? Yes, I think you can say I'm a software developer. I work for a company, international company, that makes software for speech recognition in cars. And now you can Google that and you probably will find my employer. And I do software development for a living. Mostly in C++ at this point. A little bit of Python. I used to do quite a bit of Java. There's a little bit of C also in there. When nobody's looking, I like to do Clojure, but that's more hobby projects at home. And of course, programming in MS-DOS on old machines. You can of course ask more questions like this if you have programming questions, shoot away too. We don't need to solder all evening, which is already 1 hour into the stream. Not quite happy. I still have to do the second part of the RotoZoomer Let's Code, because in the first part I explained how to do it with floating point numbers, which is incredibly slow on the 486. And in the second part, which I already have the solution for, but I need to record the video, I will code that with just integer values and do the rotation and scaling with that. But I didn't have the time yet to do that. So it will probably out next week, I guess. And some cable is falling down. It's a headphone cable. Away you go. So if you found that video interesting, there will be a follow-up. Okay, socket is in. We can put that away. There's a tiny socket for the, what is this? Is it this one? Yes, it's the IC4. IC4 is a GAL. Oh yes, we have to program a GAL. For those who don't know, a GAL is a programmable logic chip. There are PALs and GALs. Funny naming, which I can't find right now. This is the EEPROM. Okay. And somewhere in here. Oh, look at this. I found the dip switches. We'll need those as well. These are actually nice. They are black and white. Last time I bought the blue and white ones, but I like the black and white ones more because they actually look like little piano keys. Chat is silent. Are you bored, people? Shall we do something different? I'm gonna press exit here on the PC. Okay, did I put that in? Yeah, I put that in the right orientation. That's actually pretty tight fit. Because the pins are slightly different than on this one, I think. Okay, well, all good. Necroware, no, it's just fine. Okay. Okay, you just have a relaxing voice. Thank you, Necroware. Is this the Frankie EPSG board you're assembling? Okay, the mouse doesn't know yet what we're doing. We are doing the ROM and RAM expansion for the, or are you talking to Jens? We are doing the ROM expansion for the pad, so for the third time. But you're probably talking to Jens and his stuff. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with the MSX line of computers. I am just barely familiar. Just read a couple of stuff from it in the magazines. The most interesting thing I found about this is that it's actually standard by Microsoft, mostly for the Japanese market, but I think Philips also did some for the Dutch market. And basically it's a standardized platform for 8-bit home computers in the 80s, when the market was actually pretty fragmented. And the MSX actually unified. They said you need to have this graphics chip, this CPU, this sound chip, and then you can have extras, of course, but at least this amount of memory. And you can program for one of the MSX machines and it will run on any of those. And that's actually pretty interesting because like Commodore was incompatible with Atari, etc. And that was a pretty novel concept. Jens asks, what is your favorite MS-DOS game? That's a very good question. There are a couple, I think. One of the very, very, very favorite games of mine for MS-DOS is definitely Monkey Island 2, because it was one of the first games I played. I played a couple of games before that, but it was one of the most stunning games, because back in 1991 it had great graphics and even better music. And I think the music still holds up today because it uses a very good sound system. But there are a lot of other games that I played a lot. Too many to mention probably. I used to play a lot of X-Wing, which I like very much. So a lot of the Lucasfilm stuff. From the Sierra titles, Space Quest 3 is definitely my favorite, although it's a very short game. I think the visuals and the overall game are pretty good, but it's way too short. And from the later games, Command & Conquer was always great. No, that's already leaving MS-DOS territory. Like the Need for Speed series was great. I think the first one was probably DOS, but the later ones was Windows 95. But something like that. Mainly adventure games, a little bit of simulations stuff, space stuff. Not so much the strategy things. Maybe the Settlers. The Settlers was pretty nice. But there were so many good games on MS-DOS. I didn't very much like platformers because I never had a console. However, Jazz Jackrabbit was my favorite jump and run game on MS-DOS. because the graphics were cute, the sound system was great. Yeah, it was just an excellent game, I think. Back when Epic was still a nice company. Doom, of course. I mean, Doom. We played Doom back in high school when we had some time between periods. We would have like the shareware version of Doom because there were less floppies, and we weren't allowed to install anything on the school computers, and they were also diskless. They were diskless booting from a NetWare server, but you had a RAM disk, and the shareware version of Doom would fit into the RAM disk. So we would install the shareware version, and that took like 10 minutes or something, unpacking from diskettes, floppy disks. And we would set up a network game because it was NetWare, so we had IPX networking, and Doom would support that, and we would play co-op or death matches. So it was like 10 to 15 minutes to set up, and then we had roughly 30 minutes playtime before we had to shut down the machines and go to the next period. That was actually pretty neat. Was my first network gaming experience. That was back in 1994, I would guess, because Doom came out end of 1993, I guess. Yeah, and in theory that was kind of illegal because I think in Germany Doom was rated 18 years or older, and we weren't 18 at the time. But yeah, what are you gonna do? The thing was better than us drinking beer or something. Which I do now, and I don't play that much Doom anymore. Okay, we got the next socket in. These are probably the ugliest solder joints so far, but you can't see that anyway. Now for the dip switches. Here we are. Does it matter which way around I put them? Probably like this. Because on is up. I think that makes sense. No, it doesn't, because they put the square peg here. So I would say we put it in like this. I think this is the correct orientation. Okay, still some people in the chat and in the stream. That's nice. I mean, there were so many games for MS-DOS. I'm not sure. There were, of course, at least in the early 90s, there were still schoolmates who were either on a C64, but those were like, they wanted to have something better. There were a lot of people still using the A500. One of my schoolmates also had an Atari ST, but those were definitely fewer than the Amiga people, at least at my school. I used to have an Atari. I got one for free like 20 years back, but it eventually got thrown away, sadly. It was a Mega ST, even the big one with 4 megabytes, and even with a hard disk. I wish that would have survived, but yeah, some things don't. And the worst stuff I personally gave away or sold was my Gravis Ultrasound and my Roland SCC1. I should have kept those because those have so much gone up in value. I sold them for, I bought them very cheap, but I sold them for basically the same price. And they are now worth 5 times as much as least. It's crazy. So that was quick. That was easy. So we've got the dip switches. We need a resistor pack, another IC, IC socket at least. Which one? This one probably. this. Okay, we need to cut something out as well. Shall I take the Dremel and Dremel this out, or just cut it with the snips? Last time it broke on one side, but I don't think it matters very much because it's soldered. Jens says, I hear the team around the Commander X16 is struggling. I think you might be the one who could rescue the project. Me? No. Hardware-wise, definitely not. They have some very good people. They have the guy from Texelec working on that, and he's doing great stuff. I think the X16 is an ambitious and interesting project. However, I personally won't buy one. Because I like the C64, that's fine. And that's more or less a C64 on steroids. And people who grew up with C64 might say, yeah, the X16 is great, I want to have that. But actually I'm not quite that interested. I like the fact that the C64 is almost 40 years old and you still can do amazing stuff with that. And the X16 is more like artificially limited, because nowadays you can do much better. But still, it's a very interesting project and I follow it pretty closely. Yeah, it's definitely a nice thing that it's there. The mouse says Gusses, so Gravis Ultrasounds, have certainly gone up in price secondhand. Back then they were the ultimate sound card. The ultimate sound card for some things, for sure. Because I think the ultimate sound card would be something different, to have some 16-bit Sound Blaster with some MIDI device attached, either as a wave blaster or external. But the Gravis Ultrasound for certain was the ultimate sound card for the demo scene, because you had the best music support in the demo scene, and for a couple of games, of course, that used tracker music like the demo scene. For that it was definitely perfect, and it was such a nice card because it was a red PCB back when everything else was green. It just looked radical and it sounded radical when it came out, but it was superseded pretty quickly. And it was a big problem that it wasn't Sound Blaster compatible. So, nobody says I should use the Dremel, so I'm gonna cut it. Because I don't have... I need more extension cords. I have all my sockets. I needed to unplug the MT32 to actually get everything running today. Okay, this time I destroyed it completely. Okay, the Dremel it is. And when I say Dremel, I mean the cheap plastic imitation of one. Because all my tools are cheap. Almost all tools at least. Oh goodness. The drills are escaping. The mouse says, I have kept my Sound Blaster 16 plug and play value, still my favorite sound card. Yeah. That's of course a nice card. The important thing is that they work, yes. And Jens asked, what YouTube channels do you follow? Well, I follow quite a few, but maybe some of those that are not that famous yet, or I mean the 8-bit guy, LGR, that's stuff that everybody knows, they are big. One channel that I found a year and a half ago is Look Mom No Computer. He does music, he builds synthesizers, he's an extremely creative person. And his projects are extremely interesting, I think. He's way above my league. He's inventing so much stuff. And he's such a crazy guy. But it's very interesting, in my opinion, because I like electronic music and synthesizers and stuff like that. And it's just interesting to watch him build things. Crazy things and interesting things. And for relaxation purposes, I follow... Pixel Amusement, Chris Essig, and he has one. That's my Zen YouTube show. He has this Shovelware Diggers series where I think he's doing this for 3 years now at least, or maybe even longer. He has this collection of shareware CDs for MS-DOS and Windows 3.0, and his patrons are allowed to pick a random program from that CD. There's like thousands of programs on there, and every episode he takes 3 of the Patreon picks and just runs the programs and sees what they're doing. And it's pretty ad hoc and pretty relaxed because he's just talking and trying, and maybe the program crashes or it's weird. There's a lot of crap software on there, and it's just funny to watch, and I kind of turn off my brain and just watch that. There's a lot of science channels that I like. Yeah. And I think I need to go away for just a minute. I think the kids woke up. Just 1 second, please. Shall I put up some music or something? Probably, because that could take a couple of minutes. Let's switch to the PC just now, and now the stream is running, but I'll be back very soon. So give me 1 second, please. And we're back in business. That's the thing with kids. Sometimes they need some attention, of course, which is fine. Jens asked the mouse, "Where are you from?" "I'm from a very tiny country in the west of Germany," says the mouse. "I would say Luxembourg, if I had to guess." Okay, I need to find some place to plug in my cheap drummer. And I need to take one of these out probably. Not that tiny, Netherlands. Belgium, I would say Belgium. Netherlands, okay. Netherlands is not that tiny. And my question to the mouse, if you're from the Netherlands, where are you from? Because I'm like 5-10 kilometers from the Dutch border. What to unplug? Okay. Had to unplug the video capture device. Und dann können wir auch Nederlands spreken. Sorry, my Dutch is terrible. I do understand it a bit. Randstad, close to The Hague. Okay, that's far away. Okay, I'm close to Maastricht. So that's the opposite side of the country. Okay, now it's going to be a bit loud, and I hope everything works out. Wish me luck, and I'm gonna turn on the mic for a second, at least a bit. There we go. Is that good enough? Yeah. I think that's fine. I'm gonna plug in the video capture device because we might need it later. Oh goodness. Okay. So we Dremelled. Aha, Jens says he listens every time to the podcast XBNL to learn Dutch. Well, everybody should learn Dutch. At least I say so. I grew up near the Dutch border and watched a lot of Dutch television, but that's why I can read quite a bit of Dutch, but when they were speaking it was mostly too fast, but the text was easy to understand. Yeah, I think most Dutch people actually understand quite a lot of German. At least more Dutch understand German than the other way around, I guess. Okay, anybody from other countries in the stream? For those of you joining late, I'm assembling the RAM expansion for the Commodore PET to bring it up to 32 kilobytes to be able to play games such as the Petsky Robots by the 8-Bit Guy or other stuff. Namo says, I watched a lot of German and British television growing up, yeah. With me it was exactly the other way around. But British television we didn't have, but of course a lot of the most of the shows in the Dutch television wouldn't be ad-libbed but just subtitled, so I could actually watch British or US shows in their original language. Nothing new in the chat. So as I said in the beginning of the stream, we probably won't be testing the device today because it will take a couple of minutes now to finish this, and I haven't opened the pad yet, and I don't want to rush it because it's a very old machine and I'm not sure what to expect from the inside of it. So, the mouse asked how much is it, the RAM expansion? Actually 32 kilobytes, because that's I think the maximum amount that the pad can address without any modifications. Root42, where does your name come from? You mean my handle, probably. My real name comes from my father and my mother picking it, but they didn't name me Root42. The story is actually pretty lame. I have been a Linux user for a long time. When I got my first CD-ROM drive, it was in 1994. I saved up to get my first sound card, and it was bundled with a CD-ROM drive. I got one of the very early Linux distributions on a cover magazine CD. It was even, you didn't even have to make another partition. You could unpack it on a DOS partition and load Linux from there. And I learned all about the Linux stuff, and there was this powerful user called Root. I thought, okay, that's a cool name, Root. Weird name. So when I made my first email address, I wanted to pick the root name, which was pretty naive because most of the mail servers would be running on some Unix and the name root would not be allowed. And being the nerd that I am a big fan of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And there, of course, the number 42 is the answer to everything. So when the mail system asked me, okay, root you can't take, what else do you want to do? The answer would be root 42. So that was my very first email address. I just stuck with the name, even though it's a pretty stupid name. So yeah, there's probably much better handles or nicknames or something, but that's the one that I made up roughly 25 years ago. That's the story. And I don't have that particular email address anymore, but I still own the root42.de domain. So you can check out root42.de. Yeah, it was, as I said, it was pretty naive to think that you could have the root username, which was a bit stupid, but yeah. Resistor pack, because I found it and I didn't find the IC that I was looking for. Resistor packs are my favorites. They are neat because there are a lot of resistors in a tiny package. And I bet if we were to cut this one open that there are actual SMD capacitors in there. The designer of the Snarkbucker, Eric or TubeTime, he opened up a regular capacitor, like probably one of these here. He cut one of these open, and they are just SMD capacitors with leads attached to it, and then with some lacquer put on top. And I found that very interesting. Basically, back in the day, like 30 years ago, you would get through-hole parts which were separate from the SMD parts. Nowadays they just make SMD parts and attach leads to them and sell them as through-hole parts. That's actually pretty clever, I think. So let's cut this off. There is the square hole which marks pin 1, and there is the dot which marks pin 1, so we have to align this because one of these is, oh goodness, I bought the wrong resistor. Crap, I needed a 10 pin one and I bought a 9 pin one. Yes, okay. I will have to go and... Oh, Jens says, since you have kids, should we feel bad that you spent your birthday with us instead of your kids and their mother? No, you shouldn't. I should feel bad. No, actually, my birthday was a couple of days ago, and I had a very good birthday. Thank you. So, you shouldn't feel bad. I don't need to feel bad. Today is my day where I can stream, and that's all good. So, I will need to go to an electronics store tomorrow, or probably not because they will be closed for lockdown. Probably need to look at eBay and order something, or wait for the lockdown to end. Or other thing I can do is to build my own, or I can actually, what I only need to do is I can solder this in here, and I need to put one more resistor here and attach it. but I won't do that today. I'm gonna put in the capacitors and the IC over here, and then we're done for today, because it's already 10 o'clock. But feel free to ask away, and if you have some other wishes, talking about coding, MS-DOS, gaming, whatever, retro computing, if we want to see some hardware, just tell me and we can do that. Let's see. What do we need? IC6 is a 74 HCT157 multiplexer. What do we have here? No, that's the EEPROM again. EEPROM, SRAM. This one. That's the GAL actually, which we need to program first before we put it in. And this is the 157. The last package is of course the one that I'm looking for. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I'm not gonna put in a socket for this anyway. You have quite an impressive list of publications on your webpage. Yeah, before I was a software developer in the industry, I did a PhD in computer graphics and similar stuff. And to get that, you need to publish papers and stuff. That's the deal. But I haven't since 10 years. And actually I wanted at first to get into computer graphics in industry, but there's not that many jobs, and most of them were further away than I wanted to go. Necroware says, actually I have a question. I was playing around with GCC recently. They added the M16 flag, which you can use to compile stuff for DOS as well. I tried it and it works, but well, that's not a question yet. So let's wait for Necroware to ask his question. Yeah, being able to code for MS-DOS with GCC would actually be very nice, especially if it optimizes well. Because right now I'm using, there's no DOS library and such things. Do you have any suggestion? No, but I have to take a look. Back in 1994, when I became better at programming as a youth, I got, or maybe it was 1995 already, I don't know, but somewhere around the time, I got the DJGPP compiler, which is the DOS version of the GCC compiler. And that would only run in protected mode, 32 bits, which was fine for me because everybody was using 386s and 486s, and XTs and 286 were garbage. They were not retro yet, they were just garbage. Nowadays I'm doing the Let's Code MS-DOS series with the TurboC 2.0 compiler because it's retro. It's an old compiler, it's a nice and easy compiler, but it's also a terrible compiler because it produces slow code. And having GCC and its whole array of optimizations would actually be a very nice thing. So I will have a look, I would say. I'm not sure what linker GCC wants to use. If you can produce standard OBJ files and then just use the let's say the TurboC runtime and the TurboC linker maybe, but produce the code with GCC. That would give you already a big advantage because maybe the standard C library is still not that fast, but all your code that you are doing could be heavily optimized. Yeah, please post a link either here in the chat or probably better as a comment to this stream when it gets live, or drop me a message on DOS Reloaded or whoever we met. that could be a good thing. Then I can have a look. I can't promise that I make a very quick video about it because I probably need to check it out and test it myself. But my guess would be that we're not the first to think about that. I could imagine that there's already some solution. I mean, technically you don't need any library, but of course it makes life much easier if you have already a library for file access and stuff like that. Otherwise you need to use DOS interrupts and all the crap, and that's a lot of work. So it would be nice if someone already had a standard library, or if you could use the Turbo-C library. I mean, at least a few standard functions for file handling, input and output could be nice. Okay, that's this one. Only thing left would be the capacitors. Here they are. And these are definitely SMD ones with leads attached. Damo says, I'm interested as well. I have used BCC, Bruce's C compiler before, but it's not always suitable for everything. Nekaware says, I meant not link as a link, but as linking objects. Oh, okay. Fine. Jan says, I think you would like the channel of Biscuit. He also does some cool hacking, including cracking of some old DOS games. Okay, I don't know him. But I also follow Leo Ono, who does mostly silent videos, but he's also doing a lot of DOS or retro coding. Currently he's doing his own port of Golden Axe, which is pretty impressive. He does some amazing stuff, but it's really hardcore to watch because he's mostly showing off the results. He's not commenting anything, he doesn't speak, but it's all very interesting, and he engages very much into discussions, etc. And he's, I think, a very capable coder. Damo says, one could try porting the Turbo-C Ball and C library to GCC. It would be an arduous task, but not impossible, I guess. I mean, it's C, and it should be fairly straightforward. There's probably some, I mean, Ball and C and Turbo-C probably use an old version of the standard that's probably not going to compile right away with GCC. But all the implementation would be there. Probably the assembler that they use inside of that will be incompatible because GCC uses different syntax for the assembly. But in the end, you would have to call DOS interrupts anyway, and it doesn't matter if that was from Borland source code or GCC source code. But maybe it's even faster to just write from scratch. There's probably already some implementations. You can probably take a look at the DJGPP standard library, because it will look very similar. DJGPP will have some wrapper code to switch back to real mode to access the DOS from the protect mode, but you can probably throw that part out. Maybe there's some library for Whatcom, because I know that Whatcom can also target real mode DOS. I think there, as I said, I could bet that there's already a solution. We will definitely not be the first ones to think of that. Okay, I'm gonna put in those capacitors. Maybe plug in the ICs, although they won't do much, and I need to program the flash and the GAL, so I could just plug in the SRAM. Doesn't make sense. But after that we can have a little bit more chatting, and then I'm gonna close up the stream if you don't have any more questions. But right now you can still ask away. And I will need to think of how to fix the The resistor package. I don't know why I miscounted the legs. Should have been 10 and I bought 9. Shame on me. Necroware says, we should talk about that on DOS Reloaded. I'm very interested in doing something useful using GCC for cross-compilation to DOS. Yes, yes we can. It's definitely an interesting topic. And doing everything in assembly is also interesting, but also very tedious. So having a good C compiler that optimizes heavily is actually very welcome. I mean, with the Rotozoomer I already noticed coding 16-bit is actually very limiting. Even though it's of course slow because I'm using Turbo C, it's even slower because I use 16-bit. If I had 32-bit, the integer operations would be way more accurate and also way faster because I can push so many more bytes. Jens says, okay guys, it was fun talking to you. My mom just told me to go to bed. I think I might have made her a little mad. Have a good night. Oh, Jens, okay. Thank you for dropping by and hope to see you in one of the next streams and or videos. Thank you for visiting. Yeah, here's our final product for today. So what is missing? As I said, the only real thing missing is the resistor pack. I could probably just plug it in here, but this lever over here definitely encodes some address for the ROM, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. I do need to program the GAL with my Gallup 3 programmer. I need to program the ROM with the same programmer, and we need to open up the pad, then extract the CPU and put it on here, and need to put in the SRAM, which is over here. I think, yeah. Well, let's do that. We can at least populate the SRAM. It's actually a huge chip. That's only 32 kilobytes. Look at this, a massive chip, and it's still being made, it seems. At least I got it new from Mouser. The advantage of the SRAM, of course, is that it doesn't require a refresh. Back in the day, this would have been too expensive, but nowadays, not so much. A DRAM chip would require refresh and would require much more complicated board design. Oh god, I broke it. Crap. But we can probably fix it. Is there some pin header missing under the SRAM socket? No, you probably missed that part. The SRAM comes in 3 different packages. One half width, one double width, or full width, I don't know what it's called, which is this one, and one TSOP or something SMD socket. And you can choose any of those. And I've used the, because it was available at Mouser. Oh, look at that. Please don't break. Anyway, I chose this one because it was available, and you can populate a half-width socket here, like this, and also there's the TSOP or whatever package. Yeah. But I thought this looks more retro, it was available, it wasn't expensive. But I should have been more careful with this tiny little leg. I have to say, that's actually where the dual wipe sockets are easier. I've never bent a pin on a dual wipe socket, but these machine sockets, you have to be very careful and align them just right. It's fitting perfectly. So, this is our end result for today. There's still something to do, but I will follow up with another video where I finish the work on this, and I will install it in the pad, and either that will be also the video where I have the physical copy of the Petsky Robots game, or otherwise I will just use the digital download, because I don't have a floppy drive anyway. I have a SD card adapter for the pad, which is, the pad is over here. Can't turn it on because I'm out of sockets and you won't be able to see much anyway. Any more questions? I would give myself 10 more minutes to 20, 30, and then I would call it a day. We can probably switch over to the desktop over here. So that was the project that we were doing. And yeah, here it says 9 resistors in 10-pin package. Stupid me. Let's count. It's 9 pins that I bought. Stupid me. Then I also need the ROM images. I need to flash that, and there's also the JEDEC and source files for the GAL, which is basically the equations to program the logic chip, which is all good. And then you can toggle the switches and select which parts of the ROM should be visible, and you can pick between basic version 2 and basic version 4, etc. But I'm mostly interested in the RAM actually. I'm not very much interested in the ROM because the basic V2 is okay, but it's of course nice to have basic V4, which is the same version as the C64 has, which is fine, I guess. Yeah, so what are the future projections for my channel? What does Social Blade say? Social Blade says I will hit 4,000 subscribers, a bit more than in half a year, and 10,000 in 1.5 years roughly. Let's see if that works. If I keep putting out stuff, of course, that is. And yeah, I'm definitely waiting for the 2048 subscribers, because 2000 is of course not a good number. 2048 would be a good one. Then I'm probably gonna do another special episode, because last time we had that, I gave away something, some small sound card or something, and I think I will do something similar next time. So make sure to watch that. It should be very soon. Probably I'm not gonna make it exactly on time for the 2048 subscribers, but sometime in the next few weeks, because I definitely want to get the RotoZoomer running. For all of those who haven't seen that yet, that was my last video, Let's Code MS-DOS, the famous RotoZoomer part of Second Reality, and we coded that from scratch. 2 to the power of 11 subscribers shouldn't be too hard. No, of course, that's currently I get like 10 subscribers every 2 or 3 days, more or less. That's the rate we're going at. It used to be slower, but in the last 2 or 3 months the speed actually picked up. Not sure why, but it did. And yeah, next video will be continuing this and not using floating point mathematics, but faster integer mathematics, which will actually be running on the 486 also in not very fast speed, but acceptable speed, especially since we're not using assembly language and we are doing 16-bit operations, as I said. 32-bit would be way faster, as well as having a better compiler, basically. Damao says, did you try building the actual source code for Second Reality? It's been open sourced for a while. No, but I have browsed through it, and I would like to build it because it actually has one annoying bug. The part with the Lissajous figures dancing around, the balls up and down, that part will crash if you have too many subdirectories where you put Second Reality. So I put it in the main folder, and it's a bit annoying to have it there. And I think that would be probably very easy to fix, because it doesn't find a file that wants to load if there's too long a path name. Necroware says, oh, you have currently exactly 2000. No, I have more than 2000, but YouTube, when you hit 1000 subscribers, it stops updating the public count. It just shows every 10 subscribers in the public count, and later it will only show every 100 or 1000, depending on how many subscribers you have. Demo says there's a patch for that bug. I know. No, I didn't know, but yeah, I should probably apply that. There's also another bug. It crashes with the Snarkbarker because the DSP version is probably too old. When the full demo has run and the credits should be starting, it actually hangs. I don't have the problem with the GuSR, so the Gravis Ultrasound. It works just fine using that. But with the Snarkbarker, it crashes all the time, every time. So I think there's a bug in the Sound Blaster programming, or it definitely needs a Sound Blaster 2.0 DSP, which the Snarkbarker doesn't really have. The firmware is, I think, 2.0 compatible, but it's from a Chinese clone. And TubeTime has reverse engineered the Sound Blaster 2.0 DSP code, I think. In a crazy way, actually, because the microcontrollers on the Sound Blaster cards are read protected, and he actually drilled open the DSP and attached a wire to probe the code. And I haven't found his code yet, because he didn't just put it up on GitHub, because it's still Creative Labs property, but he somehow managed to give it to the MAME people, because they also need that for some arcade games, I think. So that should be popping up somewhere in the MAME world in the near future. And that would be interesting to flash onto the Snarkbarker as well, because then you would have a really compatible Sound Blaster clone. Yeah, that's definitely a fascinating topic. I probably won't find the Twitter thread that he put that in. So yeah, Second Reality is definitely one of my most favorite demos. I could play that now on the 486 even, but I will get another copyright strike for that, so I won't, because, or I can play it without the music, which is only half the fun actually. Because for some reason Purple Motion's music is since a few weeks on some, I don't know, content provider that looks on YouTube for content matches. So I got 2 strikes for playing 2 mods from Purple Motion, which I could just put away by just muting that part of my video, which is fine. Because that was just in the live stream. Purple Motion's music is on Spotify. Yeah, I guess so. Because I mean, he is a great composer, and he definitely deserves credit for his music. But it's still a bit weird because the S3Ms from him are still floating around for free everywhere. You can download them for free. You can play them. But of course, you can't earn money with them, which sort of is fair enough. But I think the YouTube system is broken, because I play those just for the intro and outro of the live streams because I like the music. And once there is one match, you lose all your money on that video, which doesn't make sense because it's just like 3 minutes out of 2 hours or something. So I would suggest that I give proportion of my ad revenue to that person, because I think people don't watch my stream for the Purple Motion music but for my content. That would be fair, sort of. But yeah, that's why I won't be playing that anymore. But you can listen to that. There's enough recordings of that, and on Spotify, as you say. And yeah, I think he's still a great musician and he deserves credit and all the money in the world. Probably not, but he definitely deserves credit and compensation for his great work. And the stuff that he did back in the 90s on the computer was definitely very, very, very good compared to a lot of other composers. Yeah, anything else? Any more questions? I almost managed to drink my beer tonight. Last time I think I didn't even finish that. Demo says, I think all of us can run the demo in some form or another in any case. Yeah, of course, you can just download it. There is a lot of websites. My favorite website for demo scene stuff is Poe. And you can just look here for Second Reality. Should be simple enough. So there you will find as the first hit the original demo, and you can download it, and or you can just look on YouTube a recording on, I don't know, some of these links, or you can just download the demo and run it in DOSBox. And it's still, at least for MS-DOS, I think the best and most polished demo, at least of the first half of the 90s. I didn't follow much of the latter half, and people were switching to Windows, of course. I still think there are better demos both on the C64 and the Amiga, especially considering that they are working with much less powerful hardware in some ways and much more powerful hardware in others, because on DOS you have to code everything in software. You don't have, even the VGA card has very limited acceleration capabilities and capabilities for effects. I already explained how to do these copper bars, but that's almost the best you can do. All the other copper effects from the Amiga you can't do because there's no similar hardware in the PC. And in the Amiga running at 7 MHz, which is so slow, putting out graphics effects that put a 486 demo like Second Reality to shame, that's just simply amazing. And in this way the C64 and the Amiga can do much better things, but still for MS-DOS I would say Second Reality was the most polished and best demo I've seen. All the other groups that were doing stuff at the time did quite nice things, but nothing was like this cineastic and well done. And also music-wise, I think Second Reality is leagues ahead of the competition. Yeah. I think there were very good Windows-based demos later, and some of them haven't aged very well, especially the early 3D demos using the early 3D accelerators, because they were actually very weak hardware, not well used. Yeah. Okay. People are slowly dropping off. I'm just rambling here. I think I will play a bit of music again, which hopefully don't produce any content matches, and leave the stream running for a couple of minutes while cleaning up a bit the mess that I made. And I thank you very much for joining. It was a pleasure. This tonight's stream, we got almost all of the hardware assembled. I need to fix the resistor pack. Demo says, ever watched anything from Andromeda Designs? No, I don't think so. And Raymond says, VGA is utterly useless design compared to the Amiga and other 16-bit systems. Yeah, I almost agree. It definitely is very, very limited. There are some tricks that you can do, but most of the stuff you need to do in software. Yeah, anyway, please check in for the next video or stream. I will definitely put the hardware into the pad and get it running. That will be another day though. I will finish my rotozoomer with integer mass, hopefully this weekend or sometime next week. And if you haven't, of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, discuss in the comments whatever you like. And yeah, for today's birthday stream, although it's a couple of days ago, that's it, I think. Let us switch to the PC again. There we go, but OSSC is not tuned to the right channel. Here we are. Okay, Modmaster is back in business. And let's see. You liked... I have a bit of Jazz Jackrabbit music. How about that? I was talking about Jazz Jackrabbit earlier. Let's put that on. I think those two are my favorites, and maybe while cleaning I will also... Stardust Memories is always good. And I think that's it for today. See you next time. Bye!